Well, thank you for joining me for another draw along session. I think today I would like to draw several boats of different kinds. It's a beautiful day in Northport, a breeze on the lake, and I'm sure there's a sailboat out there somewhere that will inspire me even more. I've been a sailor all my life, so I've always drawn sailboats. So I think I'm going to take it from my earliest boats on up and see how many I can fit on one piece of paper here. We'll do this like a series of snapshots. I think I'll start in the corner up here with one little dot, and this dot is going to turn into a line that comes across here like this. And about that far. This is going to be our introductory picture. It's going to be the simplest of the boats we draw. These lines are coming down here like this and across. And I'm going to start with a simple shape. And this will be like something you would start with when you're first learning how to draw with scribbles on your high chair tray. It's just a shape that looks like a letter U or a smiley face on SpongeBob here. And this shows us what we call the shear of the deck of the boat. And most boats have a little bit of a curve there, especially sailboats. And then you have a curve up here at the front or the bow of the boat. And at the back end, the stern, oftentimes it's more squared or angled like that, and because that's where the rudder attaches. And then to make it look like it's in the water, I'll just add a wiggly line like that. So now it looks like it's actually moving through the water, kind of. To steer it, you need this little board that comes up here, and it comes out like that. This is called the rudder, and there's a stick that comes across here called the tiller. And so you hold on to the tiller, and by pushing it and pulling it back and forth, it'll steer the boat up into the wind or fall off downwind. To make it look more personal here, I'd like you to just draw a shape that looks kind of like your head. And imagine being on this boat. You can draw your hand holding on to the rudder there, or the tiller, and then just be here like this, just kind of sitting in the boat, and you're sailing off somewhere. If you want to put a collar there and have your eyes here and your hair flying back like that, makes it look a little more exciting. And maybe you have a jacket on here or something to get you where you're going, or keep you warm. And then I'm going to draw a pole that comes up here, and this is called the mast. And the mast is what holds up the sails. I'm going to take it up as high as I can. It's a little thicker down here towards the bottom. And it's held up by a line that comes down this way here at the front. And then there's another line that comes down, usually from higher up. It comes down here towards the side, and you got one of these on each side. This is called the forestay, and this is called the shroud. And so I'll put another one, well, I'll leave that like that for now. And then we'll have the boom coming out here behind you, so that you're in front of the boom. And this is the pole that holds the bottom of the sail. So I'll draw that coming out like that. And then we'll just take the sail curving it up like this. This is called the mainsail, and it comes up like that. In this triangle area up front, you have another sail here called the jib, and I'll bring that up here like this and like that, coming up. So we have a rope at the bottom of the jib that comes down here. That's called the jib sheet, and you have a rope here for the main sheet. And sometimes you have these little sticks called battens in here that stiffen up the sail, the back edge of the sail. And sometimes these boats even have a stick coming out in the front like that, and another sail flying up here like this. So you have a second head sail coming up. So you see, the more details you add, the more interesting it is, and the more believable it looks. If we add a couple of little extra details here, like maybe some texture in the water here like this, and just think of the water splashing and moving along, and maybe darker down here towards the bottom, and maybe a line across the top here to add a little trim, and then down below you can darken in the water line a bit. And you have a couple little hinges here, the pintles and gudgeons that hold the rudder, and maybe a little shadow on you here, and then to make it look more interesting yet, you can draw a line showing where the water ends, maybe at the shore back there. You can have land coming down behind the sails here. Maybe trees on the hill in the distance. A few little pine trees back there. And then some big clouds in the sky. And now the sail is pushing towards the front, so the wind is coming from behind the boat and pushing across in that direction. So if you want, you can add some lines like these that make it look like there's actually wind in the air. It darkens it up so it makes the sails and the clouds look brighter. And then to add a little more sound to your drawing, you can put some seagulls up here and imagine their call in the distance, and imagine the sound of the wind in the rigging, and kind of put yourself in that picture. When I was a kid growing up, we had what was called a National One Design sailboat. It was 18 feet long, and it was my world in the summertime. I'd get on that boat, and I could, even on a small lake, I could pretend I was off in some far distant waters and go forever. But things I was more interested in yet were the schooners, the kind of boats that I'd see in the harbors. And it wasn't until I was 15 that I started working on schooners. And I'm going to draw one of those right now. I'm going to draw a box here coming down. It's a sailboat that's put together pretty much like the one we have here, only it's usually a whole lot bigger. And it has more sails, and it can go farther. And it's been used in many different ways over the years. Fishing schooners along the east coast of America, and even down into the islands, turtle boats and things like that. And it was the go-to boat for pirates for quite a while too, because it was fast and sleek. It can sail upwind. And this is what a schooner looks like. I'm going to start right here, and we'll draw this same kind of lines here. We'll do the same sequence. I'll draw this line curving along. So this is going to be the sheer of the deck coming up like that, and I'll take it right up into the bowsprit here, so it's long like that. And this schooner has a shape curving down like this at the bow, and it has a line that comes down a bit and then tucks in here at the stern. I'm going to draw a wave splashing here, and I'll make the waves look smaller and a little more coarse as the boat is going through the water. And just go ahead and add a little darkness to those waves, and we'll kind of work our way up on this drawing. I'm just using scribbly lines to make it look more like the darkness of the water, the deep blue-green color of ocean water in particular here. Or this could be on the Great Lakes as well. I've had the pleasure of sailing on some beautiful schooners over the years, and one of them was a black-hulled schooner named Bagheera back in Macatawa Bay in Holland, Michigan, near Holland, Michigan. It had a black hull and just a majestic boat. We'd work in the springtime in the boatyard in the building there, sanding and scraping and painting the hull, and then we'd be ready to rig it and sail it. So I'm going to put a line that comes up here. Now we're going to draw this pole coming up, which is again the mast, but this is going to be what's called the foremast. That's because it's in front, and it comes up about this high. And right about here it joins up with another mast called the foretop mast, and it sticks up a little higher here. And it joins up so it's sticking out in front of the one below. And then we'll put the main mast right about here. The main mast is going to run parallel to the foremast, so just draw a line coming up here. And then join it together with the main topmast like this. We have several beautiful boats like this on the harbor, Grand Traverse Bay down at Discovery Pier and in that area. Another one up in Sutton's Bay, the Inland Seas, the school ship, Madeline and others down in Traverse City area. They all have basically the same kind of rig. You have a couple head sails here, like these two head sails here. They're much bigger. Just to give you a sense of scale here in a moment, let's just do it right now. I'm going to draw a person right about here. So you see how small this person is compared to you in this boat up above? You get an idea of how much bigger this boat is that we're drawing now. There's a little wooden boom that comes across here, not so little, but it holds the bottom edge of what's called the staysail. And the staysail curves up here like that. And then you have a line coming out here. And this will be the jib, and this is going to curve up and over just like we did on the smaller boat. And then you have your outer jib flying up here like this. So you see how these triangles fill this forward triangle area, each one giving a better chance to catch the wind, and to, in this case, the more wind you catch, the more speed you get, and they're all used to trim the boat in relation to the wind as well, so you can sail upwind or downwind. Right about here, there's a long pole called a gaff that comes out, and this holds up the top of a sail that is what it was called a quadrilateral sail. Instead of a triangle sail, you have a boom coming across here, pretty much covers that area, and then you see the back edge here of the sail curving, and then you have another sail up above here like this, filling that top area. To hold up these masts, you need more strength than one or two little lines here, so we'll draw a few coming down. We'll draw 3 of them, and these are the shrouds of the rigging, but they have these little cross sticks on them. On pirate ships and others that we may get around to today, they had actually foot ropes there, and they would climb up those. They called them ratlins or ratlines. And then you have others to get up a little higher here if you need. You have the sheet down here, the same sheet you have on the back of the little boom there, this one coming down. So again, basically what we're doing is we're taking the same basic idea, and we're just multiplying the sails and increasing the size, and affording us a different arrangement of these sails here. To shorten the sail, there are rows, usually a couple rows like these, of little ropes hanging down. These are called reef lines, and there's a reef point there, and if the ship gets in stormy weather, they can lower the sail, and they'll bunch it together down here along the bottom and tie it with these strands, either a little bit here or for more if it's really heavy weather. And the mainsail is the same as the foresail here, except it's longer, bigger, and oftentimes it sticks out beyond here. So I'll draw this one sticking out further, and this one comes up like that, similar angle to the foregaff there, and then we'll draw a line curving in here, and one curving up like that. And now we do the same thing all over again. You draw your shrouds coming down the sides. You see, the more of these details you add, and the more you know about them, the more realistic your boat drawings are, and the more believable. And when you start taking little boats like the first one, and this one is getting bigger, and then you keep going up further and further till you get to the full-rigged ships, the pirate ships of old, and the big tea traders that sailed the oceans, and you see that it's the same basic formula. It just gets more and more complex, more interesting as it gets bigger. There is a line that comes here, and sometimes they'll add sails up above in here. They might have one that comes down like this and might overlap a little bit, and just to maximize the sail area. But for the most part, this is it. And you might have, in this one here, you'll have a steering box here for the wheel, for the helm, and then right here you might have a room going down into the maybe the captain's quarters. And if it's a lumber ship, a lumber schooner or something on the Great Lakes from long ago, you might have a cargo hold here for lumber and wood products. I sailed for 3 years on a boat down in Key West called the Western Union International. We were tending underwater cables, and in this area we carried a great amount of a replacement cable to splice when we found damaged cables in the ocean floor. But if you come back here and draw a line continuing off in the distance, well, and you got to go kind of carefully between these spaces where you see the distance beyond the sails themselves. Now you have more an idea of where the sails are. And this way here, maybe you can put an island off in the distance here, and maybe another one starting here and maybe coming up in this area over in that direction. If you darken these in a little bit, you'll see that it makes the sails stand out even more white against that darker background. pushes that land back further. Same thing here. And once again, let's add some clouds billowing up in the sky like this. And I think I'm going to just skip this sail here. We do have that line there. I'm just going to bring it down like that and pretend that's another cloud down below and bring that up here like that, kind of. That looks better. And then to set these drawings apart, we'll use the same kind of trick here, but I'm going to put it together a little more closely. In fact, I'll add another detail to it just so you can make your boat drawings look a little bit more realistic, more believable, or at least different. I'm going to put these lines coming down like this and lighten them up over here by spreading them apart. And then I'll make it look kind of like we're coming out of a storm. I can add darker lines here, just increasing the darkness there, coming down, maybe some up in here like this. And a few cloud lines like this, shadows on the clouds. And maybe to stick those sails out a little bit further, I'll add a shadow underneath the clouds here coming up. It just adds a little bit more drama to the drawing. And once again, you're going to want to have some seagulls in here, especially if you're out on the ocean or way out on the lakes. So now you see we have two completely different boats. Now I'm doing all of these drawings on one piece of paper, but once you have this little sampler here, you could decide you wanted to dedicate a whole page to this drawing here and explore different ways of doing it. Just remember the simple shapes we start with. All the rest of these lines are scribbly lines that you can change and shape and explore and experiment with to get the best look to what you're hoping to achieve here. You can also add some little lines like these on the sails themselves to add a little bit more dimension to them, add some shadows to them. They actually have shadows that play across and often darker than the sky beyond or sometimes lighter. But, that's how you choose to do it. Boats get bigger and bigger in our drawing here, and I think what I'll do is I'll come up to another one. I'm going to change the style on this drawing here. It's going to be a little bit more complex, a little bit more challenging, because instead of drawing a sideways view, we're going to turn the boat towards us a bit. And to do this, I think we'll draw a pirate ship. And I'm going to start with a line right about here, and I'll come across all the way, and I'm going to use a wiggly line here instead of the straighter looking lines because we're going further back in time. This is back even before my time. This is back in the days of pirates, and I'm going to leave a little line or a little space under this line here so we can add some more information. Tear away at the edges here a bit to make it look more treasure map like. And once you have that done, let's go ahead and put a border around it. Make it look like an old engraving from long ago of some great pirate adventure. You could think of the Black Pearl or pretty much any pirate ship of bygone eras. And now it has a stage that's pretty well set for it. Now, with this kind of arrangement here, we're not going to be able to see the whole ship, but what we'll do is we'll draw it, and I'll show you how we can fit it in here. The main part of the ship I want to focus on is the forward end of it, and we'll see that as it comes towards us here. I'm going to draw a line, the same line we started with here, sweeping up the sheer of the deck. It's going to come up like this, and it's going to curve up like that. When it gets to right here, it's going to curve over a bit. I'm going to take another line underneath it, right about here, and bring that up. And then from right about here, I'm going to draw a line that sweeps up like this. Now this has got a fancy forward end to it, and we're going to take this right off our page. I'm just going to draw this line coming down here and this one here, coming up. And then I'll put a scroll-like pattern in here, and you can draw this however you like. I'm just going to make it look kind of fancy, like it's a scroll-type design that curves up and over. Just make it look very fancy and make it look powerful and important. Think of an old Spanish galleon back in the day. And then we're going to draw a stick that comes out this way. Now the stick we're drawing is just like the one on the schooner here or on the little sailboat here. This is the bowsprit, and it's going to come out. I'll bring it up like this, coming out like that. And it has ropes here. These ropes are called gammoning, and they're used to hold that stick on because it has a lot of weight to it, and it's going to stick out right off our page there like that. Now you have a different arrangement to your drawing, I'm sure, than I do. And so maybe you can make yours longer, maybe you have to cut it off a little bit shorter, but you get the idea. Right here is a shape that comes out, and then this is going to curve back a little bit, and then it comes down to the what's called the stem of the boat. It curves down like this, and it's going to come out in here, and that's going to curve back a bit. So you see we're going around the far side of the boat. We see just a little bit of that other side of the boat, and I'll darken that in a little bit here. If you draw a line that comes along parallel to the one above it here, you see we have a raised area or an area up above, and you might have some little marks like these for scuppers that allow the water that crashes onto the deck to flow down. You might have maybe a small deck cannon mounted in here that we might see stuck back in there a little bit. And you might have another one here. The main cannon on this boat is going to be down below, and we'll draw that in this gun deck below here. I'm going to draw a line that comes along, and it's going to curve like this one, but when it gets up to the bow, it's going to arch over like that, and carry this one over in a similar fashion. We'll make this look a little thicker here, this streak along the hull here like that. Make it look a little thicker in this section. I'm going to draw a little mark out here to make it look like it goes around on the other side there. I'm going to draw some water splashing in here. And then just to make it look more like we're right down at the hull of the boat, I'm going to draw some lines, one after another here, curving to show the roundness of this hull. I'm going to straighten up in here a little bit, and then I'm going to bring them around to the front or the bow of the boat like that. If you add some little lines churning down here and splashing out as the boat moves through it, you can almost hear that water as it churns. In here you can draw some larger gun ports, and these are just kind of all in a row, and this will be where you have the gun deck. If you draw the circular, the oval-shaped ends of the cannon here sticking out, you can draw the barrel itself angling back into the darkness of this gun port opening. It's dark and confusing down there, and they probably have a lot of activity and action going on if they're coming into a battle situation. If you draw some curved lines like these, it suggests the planking on the side of the boat. When you get up to about here, we're going to have I'm going to just start right here with a sail, and the sail is going to come down like this. This one here is going to be what we would call the foresail, but this one here is a square rig rather than a quadrilateral like that that's mounted sideways or with the length of the boat. This one goes across the boat, and it's going to come over here like this and along the bottom kind of parallel. And then we have another one up above. I'm going to draw these two. And I'm going to leave this end open here for a minute. I'll show you why in a minute. I'm going to draw that one coming over. Now this one kind of flares out a little bit on this side, and this one is going to flare out a little bit more like that. So you have your mainsail, your foresail here, and then you have your fore topsail here coming up. And you have your foremast coming down here. And there's often another sail up above here, which would be your foreroyal back in pirate days. And then you have these lines coming up and over, and these will be like your reef lines or your seam lines, and then you have lines coming down this way. These are big sails, and they're made out of heavy canvas, and they're meant to endure a lot of strain. Instead of a gaff like this here, you now have a yard arm that comes out on the sides. It sticks out a little bit on both ends of both of these. So this is your fore-yard arm and your fore-topmast yard arm here. And then right in here you have a platform, and this would be the crow's nest on a boat like this. And you have a doubling up of the masts here, kind of like on the schooner here. You have a wide mast down below that joins up with a skinnier mast up above. You have a sail coming down here. I'm going to draw this coming out like that, and I'm just going to draw it kind of over like this, and kind of filling out this area here. You can have another one coming out in this area, going further out towards the bow of the boat, like that, and just arch this up over a little bit. To make these stand out a little bit more, you can add some curvy lines underneath to show where they're catching the shadow of the wind here. And you have these sails here, a little shadow under the sail where it tucks under and back in here. The shading adds a little drama to the drawing. It also adds some dimension and roundness or curvature to the sails. You remember in here we had a large person on this smallest boat. We have now a small person on this one here. Well, this is a much larger boat. So if we draw a person about like this, about like that, or maybe back in here, you can see them close by. These might be pirates, or maybe these are people trying to keep from being taken over by pirates. You have them there. And up in this area here, too, you can draw a little figure like this and just sort of sketch it in. I'm scribbling it right over this. It might be a maiden with a dress and flowing hair, or it might be some other creature. It might be a dragon, or whatever you want to put on yours. This is the figurehead, and that adds a little bit more to the drawing there. Remember when we drew this first boat, we had one sail, and then we went to two. Well, here we've got more sails on this one. That's why we have this extra space back here. This is the main sail here, and this is a big sail, bigger than the foresail. And it's going to come up and over like that and kind of disappear behind there. You have the main topsail coming up here. So you see it's going to go right off the page. It makes it look so much bigger this way. And then you just do the same thing all over again. You've got your yard arm here, and you figure out where the mast is coming up here to hold up the topsail, and then you come down here, and you have enough strength there to hold up these sails. Draw some curving lines in here to make it look more powerful and dramatic. And a few extra lines in here to make it look more accurate with the seam lines of the sails. To get up to this crow's nest, and to this crow's nest right here, you need to climb up some ropes, which are kind of like these ratlins here, except again these are schooners with sticks across. These will be more the old swashbuckling ones with little ropes going across ratlins. It's said that sailors scurrying up and down the ratlins reminded people of the rats running back and forth across the rigging to get the mooring lines to get from the boat to the shore. And since we're looking at this boat from an angle, you'll see ratlins on the other side of the mast too. And then you have another mast further aft, and this is called the mizzen mast. And it is a much smaller mast, so we'll draw it back in here like this. I'll just draw this line coming up, and we'll have instead of the square sails here, I'm going to have what's called a lateen sail. It comes up like this, and then back, and it's a triangular sail that they can use to navigate in smaller, narrower waters, and it was kind of a last vestige of older way of rigging a boat. Eventually, this gave way to another square sail and more there. But we can have we'll just leave it like that back in here. So we have those sails, and on this boat, if you want to put an emblem here in front, sometimes they would have shields. If this is an old Spanish galleon, they might have a shield like this with lions and things on both sides of it, like that, and you have a shield in the middle and a crown up on top. Or you could have, they often had the crosses on them for their emblems, and then you also have these reef points like we have on the others, but these are up towards the top. What happens is the sailors would climb up and they'd walk out on foot ropes behind these. Here's a foot rope there. They go behind the sail here, and they'd balance on those foot ropes and reach over and grab these reef lines, and they'd pull the sail up. They had these long lines coming up like this called bunt lines, and guys on the deck would haul those in. It would gather the sails up towards the center, and then they could furl the sail. The sails would be furled right along the bottom of those yard arms. Draw a bunch more people in here, and just think of this ship in a battle. And you can have a plume of white water there. Here's a cannon blast that missed the boat, and it's making a splash here in the foreground. And maybe off in the distance here, we'll draw just the back end of another ship, and they're going in the opposite direction, and they have their sails rigged in a different way to catch the wind as they're passing, and they're sending out, they're firing their cannons, so you can draw a plume of smoke there like that, or maybe even a plume of smoke from the cannon of this boat. And we'll just draw this kind of back in the shadows here as this boat is passing. It's got the stern sails on here, and it's got a fancy looking back end. I'm just going to kind of scribble this in here, but it has fancy windows and what's called the quarter gallery along the sides, and back into the captain or the admiral's windows there, you have a couple stern cannon here off the back of the boat, and I'm just going to darken that in and kind of make it off in the distance just so we can get just a hint of this battle going on here. And then up above in the clouds, you can add lines like these that give you a chance to put more information in here. Again, you have a chance to fill the sails with wind, driving the boat forward, and making the clouds look brighter and lighter. You can imagine the color of the sky as this battle rages, and the seagulls would all be frantic with the noise and sound of the cannon firing in the distance. And you have some guys up here in the rigging. Up here there you'd have sharpshooters and others in a battle like this. So they'd be looking out for boarding parties and things when they would get joined up. If you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, you know what that's pretty much about. I've kind of run out of room here. For more, I could keep drawing boats all day, though. Especially fun. I find it fun to start out with something small like this. It takes me way back in my own life to boats like this, to other ones like this that I've never sailed on, but I have walked on. I've been on boats like the India and others in the Constitution. And so you get a sense of the scale, the size of these majestic ships. And Lord knows I love watching movies like Master and Commander and others that really give you a feel for what it would have been like back in the day to be aboard these ships. I hope you enjoyed this drawing. I hope you'll take the time to maybe enlarge this one and draw it on a separate piece of paper by itself, or explore the schooner or the pirate ships. Once you know how to draw this one here, you have the basic idea that lets you draw any boat you ever wanted to. It's just a little change in rigging and shifting around of things, and you just make your big person here look smaller and smaller the bigger the boat gets, and learn about the details and how they're rigged. And if you ever get a chance to get on board one of the school ships, the inland seas, or other ships in the many harbors of Michigan for the tall ship parade, and especially that tours from town to town, that's a great opportunity to get firsthand knowledge of these boats. Down here, I'm going to sign my name. I'd like you to put your name on your boat. Again, I want to thank you for sticking with me on this project. 3 drawings in one session. This was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the next time drawing with you. Thanks for spending time with me. Appreciate it. Bye now.